We are at the 2011 KOTESOL International Conference with someone that is truly my pleasure to meet face-to-face. I've known him online for quite a while, David Deubelbeiss.
Perfect.
I learned a lot about his name before we were taping. And before we were taping, we also mentioned that in the keynote today, Stephen Krashen mentioned how coffee helps prevent dementia or fight off dementia. And you were saying, basically it's about keeping your brain active.
And I heard it helps virility.
Can't hurt.
There you go, right.
And your brain, I think, must never stop. You are involved in so many projects. You are such an active content producer. I don't know where to start. Let's start with your path into all this. How did you wind up in the English teaching field?
And I can start by saying I'm working at the same place that I became a teacher. I recently moved back to Canada last year. So I've been in Canada a year, and they found I was in town somehow. And so I'm teaching.
They probably follow you on Twitter or something.
Indirectly, but it's a faculty of education. So I went to school and became a teacher at Nipissing in North Bay, Ontario. It's about 3-hour drive north of Toronto. Old educational college. Trained teachers was the main focus of the place. So it's really nice. And but I couldn't get a job after teachers college. And I ended up going out to BC to try to be a teacher in beautiful British Columbia. Couldn't find work. There was a teacher strike at the time that summer. I enjoyed the mountains and everything there. I met an elderly couple, retired dentists, on the ferry between Victoria and Vancouver. So we had time to chat, and they told me they were helping to start a school in the Czech Republic. And this was 1989. And the wall had just fallen. It was really exciting, and they were trying to learn English like gangbusters over there. And then these people were starting schools, and they said, "Well, you can't find a job. Give us a call, and you can be a teacher in our school." And I didn't think much of it at the time, but 2 weeks later, I was in Karlovy Vary in Czech Republic, teaching at a language institute and learning the ropes, and it was a great training for me.
So, can you briefly tell us the timeline? How long were you in Czech Republic and everywhere else?
Well, basically, I was a construction worker, and I think that's really important in my life story because I really grew up on a farm and I worked hard, and those principles kind of transfer over into what you were talking about, content and just keeping active.
Kind of a blue-collar language educator.
Yeah, and I worked steelwork right through university, and then after university, everybody tried to push me to do masters and stuff. I said I poo-hawed all that stuff. I fell off a building though, and really tried to go back to work after about a year, and I just get these massive headaches. There was a teachers college in my town, and so I went to teachers college. So I fell into teaching, I always say. Then I was 3 years in the Czech Republic, came back to Toronto, started teaching in a LINK program, Learning Instruction for Newcomers to Canada, for the Government of Canada. Got a TEFL certificate at that point because I was a little more interested and I had some excitement. Then I went back to the Czech Republic for another 2 years. That reverse culture shock set in, and the beer was still cheap over there. So I went back there. Then I came back to Toronto and started working for Toronto District School Board and doing some TEFL courses also with the Toronto School Board and training teachers. And that was my first foothold training teachers. And then in 2005 came to Korea because I was going to run across Canada, and I'd taken a leave from my teaching job at TDSB, Toronto District School Board. And in July, they came to me. The run was going to be 1 year long, and I was going to speak at a school every day, one school, and run 70 kilometers a day, and speak at a school about childhood obesity and getting kids active. And we had big sponsors, but they came and said the sponsors need more time. And I said, hell, I need an income. I already filed all the papers. There's no job for me for a year, right? It was unpaid leave. So I found a job. I opened a newspaper one day, and there was a position training teachers in Korea. And I was over here in 2005 and kept postponing going back, and spent 5 years working with teachers here.
Now, was it during that time or before that time that you started some serious geek activity?
Yeah, I was actually, I'm not a Mac guy right now, but in the early days of laptops, I had the old Duo, where you would stick it in the machine. That was probably like 1995 or something, 94. And then that really got me excited when the internet came and all this knowledge. I was really a kid that I loved libraries and reading when I was young. So kind of, I'm a living example of Crash It in a way. And we lived on a farm without a lot of other, toys. I remember for years, we just had one TV channel, and we had a vice grip on the TV, and it was black and white. My German folks would never buy anything more, but it helped me, I think. Where were we? I was describing
how you kind of got into internet stuff.
Okay, yeah. My really first big epiphany with the internet was when I was a public school teacher. Two things happened. Number one, I attended a thing for special education because they were really big and still are about regular school teachers learning about special education to help the students in the classroom. And I thought, wow, a lot of what they're talking about is exactly what would work for ELT. And they're using a lot of technology to really help students with special needs. And I thought, why couldn't we use that same technology to help English language learners? Because a lot of that technology, touch tablets for the disabled, voice that comes out of these devices, could be adapted for ELT. And that got me really excited to try to help English language learners through technology. But one year I had a grade 4 class, and I brought some laptops into the classroom because we didn't have computers and we could never get into the library to use the other ones. And when I see my students use the laptops, they were transformed. I'd have 4 at the back of the classroom, and we always had a system on who was going to use them and how. And I just realized the light went off and said, this is the future.
Can you tell us a little bit about EFL Classroom? Why did you start it? How has it evolved? What's the vision?
It was originally called DDD.Batcave. And it was actually a free web server, in the days when you had like free, they gave you a free website.
Yeah.
And then I just kept throwing stuff on there like a junkyard to help teachers. And then when I came to Korea, even more stuff. And then eventually one day I went there and it had disappeared. The company went bankrupt, and in the Wild West of, this was probably 95, I think. It just disappeared, and I just was heartbroken. And that's never going to happen to me again. Then Ning was coming out, so I started on Ning, and I made a community, started doing the same thing, and it's been now 5 years.
And for people who don't know what it is, can you describe it a little bit and what goes on there?
It's a junkyard, basically.
But it's not just your junkyard.
No, it's everybody's contributed, and it's a wonderful experience. Contrary to a lot of what's happened in social media the last 5 or 6 years, I really thought there was a dearth of content online. That the real power of a social network was not just talking, but also having content to surround that talk. And so I really emphasize the content, and teachers are really like, what can help me today kind of people. So I developed the site so teachers could come and upload and share things, talk about them, get good content, and really have something that will help them in the classroom.
And it's been very successful. I think last time I saw maybe 23,000 members or something.
Lots of members still coming on. It was private up until just about maybe 4 months ago, and now that it's gone Google, that Google can track it and everything, it's exploding. What
are the biggest challenges of just keeping it running and having it evolve into the kind of community you want it to be?
Well, to be truthful, there's a lot of content, and that's not such a big problem anymore, but I do always keep forcing myself to do something new because for my own professional development and put something new up there. But the real challenge, I think, right now is keeping it human and keeping it personal. I get tons of emails all the time, and I force myself to answer everybody as a human being, not as an administrator. And I just want to keep that philosophy no matter what I'm doing. But
it's hard. It's not always scalable.
No. And I've tried for a long time to get other people involved as administrators. It just never happened. I don't know. I think it's my fault. Maybe I just do too much, and I don't know how to delegate.
All right, any message for members of the EFL classroom out there?
Help! Help, yeah, please join us, bring your ideas to the fore, and how can you help the community, and where do you want it to develop? Because right now, there's great content, but I really need ideas about how to get people interactive. And that's the major challenge of not just EFL Classroom, but all social networks now with everything's Facebook or Twitter, and everything's 140 characters and
live webcasts,
right, and even webcasts and stuff like this. So I guess I'm just an old timer. I really like I used to belong to all the Yahoo groups and all that sort of stuff, and we'd have these endless discussions. I remember writing like 20-page answers to people.
I'm always impressed when I see your stuff online because there's so much of it, and it looks like, wow, he spent some time putting this together. Like, you blog a lot, and you tweet a lot, and you manage EFL Classroom a lot. Yeah. You have a job, and you have a family.
Yeah.
What is your secret of time management?
Primo Levi, I don't know if you know the guy. He's a great author. He survived the Holocaust, and he was a chemist. But he really had a great practical writing style, and his philosophy. Once he said that we don't know it, but time is infinitely compressible. It's about how much you want to do it, and that's always stuck with me. That it's not a matter of there's no time; it's a matter of I don't have enough desire to do it.
So where is your desire these days? What are your passions? What has your attention the most these days?
Probably video in the classroom. And I just spoke here at KOTESOL about the flipped classroom. Because I'm really a believer that, Gutenberg
Can you give us a definition of flipped classroom?
Flipped classroom is where students do a lot of self-directed learning outside the classroom, watching the teacher on video. And then when they come to class, there's no direct instruction. They process the knowledge they gain from the video, and they do homework in the classroom.
What do you think is in that component of it, them doing homework in the classroom and the teacher providing support or assistance? What's the most efficient way to do that? Because I have some courses where that's what I do most of the time, and I might spend a few minutes with each student. Any thoughts on how to do that most effectively? How to spread yourself around more, or I don't know.
You mean what happens in the classroom during classroom time?
Yeah.
I think don't hold yourself as such an important beast. I think you're putting too much stress on yourself, and you're clinging to that old model of the teacher having to be responsible for the student's learning. And really liberate yourself, and it takes a lot to do that paradigm shift of, I have to give every student FaceTime, especially in Korea where it's so democratic or Confucianistic. You have to, make an equal attempt. I think that teachers really have to learn just to stay back and maybe do less. Less is more.
All right. Words of wisdom.
But yeah, it is a huge jump, and one of my greatest challenges as a teacher trainer has been detraining, not training. Because we are all experts in education. We spend thousands of hours in a school, and we know how to teach because we sat there watching a teacher for so long. But unfortunately, I think we learned a lot of the wrong ways to do things. And when I work when I go to classrooms and watch teachers live that are new, immediately you can picture some old teacher from your old past, and then they've developed that kind of teaching personality. But it doesn't quite fit the digital age anymore. And so we really have to start taking risks and encouraging and creating the climate for teachers to take those risks. That administrative side of it and support is crucial. Yeah.
Well, I know you have a session to get to, so we'll let you go. It's raining again.
Cats and dogs, or what in Korea? What is it?
I don't know.
There's a book recently, and one part in the book they had all these things of every country has a term for cats and dogs.
Huh.
Like in Sweden, it's some kind of food, and
you know a lot about a lot. Like any topic can come up, and you must be very good at cocktail parties.
Yeah. With a few drinks in me, I can talk it up.
I'm going to do some research on that later this evening.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for taking some time to speak with us.
Perfect.
And thank you for all of the great things you've done for the English teacher community.
And thank you for making community. That's really important.
All right.
Great.